Never seen me? I'm so used to you seeing me in a t-shirt and like the shortest of everything all or like
they just felt like that. So I can get a chance to
because like I know I'm it's too short.
Oh, wait, okay, I can better. I didn't write that much either. I saw her like,
wait, is that you?
Yeah, he's such a great
I just like, yeah, I think you and I are good. So
It was probably brought it up right now.
Yeah, that's not
so much.
it's just a minute. It's gonna get right.
It's really flat.
That's the plus. No, I'm not really happy. I just didn't want to. I just want to avoid like him being like, already ahead of the game. No issue. Was it like a no, I'm the decision making. The book report. Oh yeah. I'm bad. I'm like, well.
I should have been like a really That's impossible, but no, I'm just gonna put it as a restaurant with lower turnout.
I didn't know I mean, every time I talk to people, it's like a fireball. Just kidding. I think it's a fresh. And I just walk around with different shirts and light on it now.
For me, for Christmas, a book about politics and HRMA.
You get it, baby.
I wish some of mine have this like shirt.
But they say hoverboards are temporary, the knowledge should be right here.
That's like probably. Yeah, so like after you talk about like pretty much the easiest example of that, like because like everything is mentioned. I'll take that. Freshman in college. And I was like, everybody has to
One from each group real quick down here.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody safe from the flooding? Everybody's good? Anybody know anybody? Everybody's all right? All right. Where's Alice? Is Alice here today? No? You all right from the flooding?
You just help me put your group's name, your topic, and
No? All right. Anyway.
the group number.
Listen.
And then your
You guys, obviously, last Thursday, you got the notice, right? I assume everybody did, that we, class was closed the university about 30 minutes before class. So, even the class, to see if any of you guys were here, of course, nobody did. So, all right, so anyway, I hope everybody made it home safely and did that. But, what they did is it put us a little behind. I sent you a message. Everybody got that? So, we're going to do our organizing, but we're going to do our presentations today. Matthew, we're going to go today. We're going to go today. Okay, so we've got 5 presentations today. We're going to get through those, and then we're going to catch up on organizing, right? Now, I want to visit with you quickly about the schedule, just so everybody can make plans. Can you pull that up?
I have one of these already.
And look, Seth and I were just working on the schedule, so the end of the semester is going to change a bit. I'm going to change the exam date. Just switch it one day. You'll still have 3 days to take it. So don't freak. It will all work out, okay? Just trying to align some stars with some other things going on at the top. So let's look at what I really want you to see. Start with Thursday, October 10. You see we have an exam day that day? That's your first exam, right? Now you take that at CASA. You have to have your profile already set up at CASA. Everybody here is familiar with that. Right? All right. If you're not, for whatever reason, visit with OSESE so we can be sure that you're set up. Because look, do not wait until the day of the exam or the day you're going over to set your profile up. That will not work. And then those exam dates and times will open up, I think it's 2 weeks out, it says it?
2 weeks.
2 weeks out, so it's going to happen relatively quickly and you should be able to start signing up. Right? If you have any trouble with that, let us know and we'll see if we can help. We have to book those dates and times before the semester begins because other classes are competing for those same dates and times. So it's challenging for us to get other slots, but we'll certainly try. I just need you to understand it may not be possible. You get why? Yeah, okay. And now with the flood, it's even backed up even more. They're having to open up dates on Sundays and things like that to accommodate. Yes, sir.
Do you know which CASA it'll be at?
It's any of them, right?
Any of them.
You just sign up and designate where you take it. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
I've always
Normally it's just one, and I think for your...
Oh, is it a CBD? I apologize. I assume when I talked to Suzanne, the lady that runs it, that she's got 3 locations and we could use all 3, but not. Yeah, it sounds like they're going to designate one for you when you sign up.
Not like the half hour cross and not sure doing.
CBD. So, all right. So listen, hey, I got to move quick. Tuesday, October 15th. I think we've talked, I just want to reiterate to you so you can plan accordingly. So we will not be having class on the 10th because we're giving that time off for your exam so we're not distracted. Tuesday, October 15th are think tanks. That's an event that college puts on. Most of you have participated, isn't it right? Remember, you have to go to at least 2 for this class. Now, you can double dip with other classes. You understand what I mean? If your other class requires you to go to 1 or go to 2, I'm not saying you have to go to 2 individual ones just for this class. I just want to know that you went to 2 think tanks total. Got it? Last, career fair, October 17th. We're not having class that day because the school's having the career fair and the luncheon, right? Does all that. But I said to you at the beginning of the semester, and it still stands, you do not have to go to career fair for this class. But I want you to have the time to be able to go for those of you that want to go. Right? Some of you might volunteer, and so it's just fair, we're out. So I just want everybody to understand, now we'll be back on the 22nd, continuing our conversation around material that you'll need for the end of the semester and the exam. Dave?
On the schedule it says career fair must attend for attendance credit, so we can disregard that.
Career fair?
I was just looking at it. It does say that. Delete that. Say we're going to delete that.
Career fair.
Career fair October 17th must attend for attendance credit. Strike that.
Okay.
But the think tanks, right? And let's just go ahead and make that clear. Must attend at least 2 for attendance credits. All right. Thank you, David. Everybody good now? So you can plan. Quincy, Adams, Jones.
So on the 15th, they're not doing the think tanks. The 15th is the 50th gala at the Post Oak. On Wednesday, the 16th is when they're doing executive in residence. And the executive in residence event is what actually has panel discussions and forums.
I thought that was on the 15th, the note I got. I do agree with you that the gala is on that evening, but we're just doing them 1 day this year and not 2. Are you volunteering for it? Yeah, so you kind of got that, right? All
I
right.
can follow up with Professor Goodell, but that's what she told us.
Okay, I will verify that. But we're going to continue with what I just said. We'll verify, but thank you. Okay. Anything else? All set. We have a plan. All right, good. How many of you are participating with the think tanks? Good. All right, great. I have ginger snaps if anybody's interested. Anybody like some? Yeah? There you go. Did you get that? No, you come down to get the cookie. Come down to get the cookie. Okay, so here's the thing about presentations, since this is our first day to do them. My expectation is that everybody is totally focused on the people that are presenting. Okay? But everything else goes away because I want you, survey tool after each presentation, you'll need your mobile device ready to go. Turning point, and you'll dial in a number 1 time, and then you should be in for the rest of all 5 presentations, I think. And you will listen. And done. And there's 4 questions to give the presenters instantaneous feedback around some of the techniques that we're focusing on. Eye contact, using our techniques, following the template, right? The presentation template. And by that I mean the scoring sheet in here, right? Did they do that? All right? So that'll give you some additional feedback. So everybody participate in that. So, but I do want to give everybody our undivided attention. Now, when the team stands up to present, one of you or both of you needs to give your cell phone to somebody else so they can record you. Everybody get that? Listen to me. They record you, and then you watch that in the evening, and each team member sends me a 150 word or less, but it needs to be significant, 150 words or less, well-crafted email. In other words, grammatically correct, no spelling challenges. You send me your self-evaluation of your presentation. How did your team do? How did you do? What were your strengths? What can you do better next time? Got it? Okay. You do not get a grade until I get your self-evaluation. Do when you send it to me. When you want your grade, you'll send it to me. But great question. Questions about the presentation? Well, all right, let's go. Team number 1. I think we've got Eric and Rose. Does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Can hear you? So I'll get that.
I don't think I'll need that, but.
No, it's just to record, for the
Yeah,
recording.
the microphone, you don't need to wear it. Just leave it right
Yeah,
there.
just leave it there.
Because really, your camera, the phones are going to pick them up.
Okay.
Okay, where is your D?
Yeah.
All right.
All these are successful teams.
Oh, nice. You already put it on there.
Yeah. I told you I was going to have it ready for us too.
How long are these presentations supposed to be?
4 minutes.
There you go. Hold on 1 minute.
Oh, yes.
Ready?
Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'm going to get my timer out. So we've got Eric and Rose talking to us about qualities of successful teams. So Sese, are you ready? Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Howdy class, how y'all doing this afternoon? My name's Eric,
I'm Rose.
and today we'll be talking to you about how to create the best team and the 7 qualities of a successful team. The first quality of a successful team is communication. Communication is key because it helps teams come together and is essential for tracking progress and working efficiently. Two of the key parts of speaking clearly, openly, and considering what others have to say. Poor communication can lead to incomplete work and or conflicts in the work environment.
Okay, second is focus on the goal and the results. That means come together as a team and evaluate what the goal objectives are. So make sure that you guys all agree upon the goal. That's the number 1 thing in communication that follows along with this. And then the second part is understand the goals, okay? So make sure that if somebody is not knowing what's going on, just help them out, okay? And this provides them with clear direction and gives the group something to aim for collectively.
Equitable contribution to the effort is essential. When everyone contributes their fair share, equal work feels like equal work. When everyone is working together, you feel like you're a part of a team, and you feel like everyone is committed to the success of the company and the company's goals.
Okay, fourth is offer support. If you see someone struggling in the group, just lend a helping hand. This will help you guys come together as a group. But not only that, it's also shown that when organizations give you support and resources to use, that allows the group to really excel as well.
Diversity is key. Different cultures bring in different ideas and different skills, knowledge, and allow for more solutions to more difficult problems, as well as different people also are more situated to perform different roles, and having a large diversity will enable your team to work better and more cohesively.
Number 6, good leadership. The leader is somebody that you look up to for guidance. This person really stands out and earns your respect in the group. Also, this individual essentially works as a glue for holding the group together. Look at this person for setting the pace, giving motivation and encouragement. So this person really helps, like I said, bring the group together. Lastly, they keep the members and the team up to date at all times. So in case anybody is struggling, this person helps them and guides them.
Lastly, organization. Team members need directions to achieve goals, and management should follow up with team members to ensure that assignments are being completed. And it is ideal to hold regular organizational meetings to keep everyone on the same page.
And the last part is the fun part. Just remember to have fun. You just want to make sure that you guys get along. Sometimes in the best groups, these people come together outside of the work environment, and that really helps you guys come together as a group and work more efficiently. Let's see. Building a positive relationship with your colleagues can make for a much more fun and relaxed environment and reduce conflict. So that's very important when you're working in groups. So make sure you're just getting to know the individuals within your group so you guys can get the job done.
And since you all will be working on presentations as part of a group or a team, either in this class or in your future, use these 7 qualities of successful teams to help build your professional and team building skills. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we need the little USB?
That works.
We've got team 2, Amanda and Joseph and Isaac.
Do y'all have a presentation or a PowerPoint?
Yes. Can I just log into Gmail? We don't have a flash drive.
They don't have a flash drive? Okay, give me one. Let me just...
Give us 1 second here. Oh, so do we have time to pull up the survey?
Yeah. Yeah, I can pull it up.
Did you already see it? No, you haven't seen the survey.
No, it's not up yet.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So we talked about it. She talks, you talk, then I bring up the issue committee.
But before that,
Hey, Joseph, you guys have a seat real quick right on the front row? Yeah. And if you don't have your phones, grab them, because I want you guys to participate in this poll. Let's see if we can do this relatively quickly. If we can, it makes sense. We're trying to adapt this to this class, and we tried it out in another class, and it was a little challenging. We thought we'd try it again here and see how we did. Let's go next. There you go. So that looks pretty good. Yeah. Good. This is for both, obviously. Did you like their posture? Did they make, we're going to ask about, were they articulate, right? Uh-oh, assessing. Yeah. Okay, that's not bad.
How come you're not doing this? I'd like to see your response.
Me? You're going to get my response, dude. Don't you worry about that. It's already written down on a piece of paper what you're going to get. The whole team, the team does. Okay, so it looked like there was some distractions that were going on, but when you watch the video, you'll see, what you can do differently. All in all, though, it's good work. All right, very good. Team number 2. Let's rock and roll. Okay, did you find this helpful?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to keep doing that. Looks like we can do it pretty quickly. You guys can catch on quick.
My laptop does not have the Wi-Fi. It's not good.
Oh, okay, like you catch it.
And then if my turning point wasn't working,
Yeah.
I don't know why it's still not working. I've tried going to the IT office and they don't have any help for me. They keep telling me to contact them. And it just,
Yeah, you might need to go to
I've tried.
Should be an email and I'll.
Those are due, yeah, 1 second. Thank you for that. I'll pick those up. Thank you.
Amanda?
Yeah, I'll do it. Do I just press this way? This way?
You just go to present like this.
Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the folks on the screen. This is Amanda, Joseph, and Ivy. We're doing a book review on difficult conversations. Whenever you're ready.
All right, good afternoon, class. My name is Joseph.
Ivy? And I'm Amanda. So every day we are forced with having difficult conversations, whether it's breaking up with a significant other or asking our boss for a raise. It's important we learn how to navigate these difficult discussions to turn them into constructive conversations.
I'm very happy to share with you about the difficult conversation, how to discuss what matters most. This book is about like the relevant understanding why we always try to avoid difficult conversation, and also will give you insight into how we can handle them correctly. This book is written by 3 authors. The first is Donna Storm, Bruce Patton, and the last is Shirley Hay. They are a member of negotiation projects of the Harvard University.
Now, rather than looking at a difficult conversation as an argument where it's just 2 opposing forces and nobody's really getting anything done in the conversation, it's better to look at it from a third-party perspective where you just take a step back and you kind of look at all details of what's happening.
Wait, so I think I lost some money. Did you take my money? Why would you just take money off the ground? Like, why would you steal someone's money? That makes no sense. Like, you're a thief. Like, obviously you're a criminal. Like, you just attacked me personally.
So that was a prime example of a difficult conversation. As you can tell, it was more of an argument because it was really one-sided. You didn't get to hear anything from me. You didn't get to hear my side on it. So really, there's just a whole other way to handle that. And we're going to talk about that way to handle that. So the first step is talking about what happened. So with what happened, you're essentially, like I said, taking a step back at the whole thing, and then just looking at it and evaluating from both sides, unbiased on what's going on, why it happened. Basically just examining the details of it.
Difficult conversation is difficult because there are feeling involved, and there are 2 reasons like make the difficult the conversation is hard to deal with. The first is like the person hide their feeling. The second is they put the other feeling like ahead of their own feeling. And on the other example, Amanda, she got angry because she lost money, and she tried to find some person so she can blame on it. But at the same time, we are at the Joe's side. We will see like he will hurt, he will upset because he and Jolanda is a friend, and then he got claim from her with like don't understand what happened.
So conversations can be difficult because they can bring into question a person's character or what makes them who they are. So in essence, their identity. Within each of us, there's a personal dialogue where we can identify what issues of a conversation are important to us. By identifying these issues and adopting new information that we learn to fit our identity, we can bring a more balanced sense of self to each conversation.
So basically, back to talking about arguments is essentially a general idea of what an argument is. It's really just one person overtaking the other person's side, not really listening to what they have to say, and just kind of cracking whatever they're talking about, and just getting their point across. And rather than doing that, the quality of having a difficult conversation is that way you can save relationships, you can build on them rather than just tear them down over something so minuscule, such as finding money. Also, third story perspective is essentially kind of like a marriage counselor with a married couple. If you go to somebody who's unbiased and doesn't really pick a side between you two, they're going to be a third story perspective because they're just kind of examining the issues at hand and just really telling you like what the issue is and how to handle it.
So when the reframing and listening are enough to deal with the difficult conversation, we use the naming the dynamic issue in the problem at hand to have the person to resolve the problem better, because the name diving help you to understand the story more clearly. Like we will understand the other point of view more than what we just like having during the conversation, what he think and how he feel behind what he just told you in the first place. Also, it can stop the frustrating interaction by give a warning to other person, because your action is making me feel upset.
So the most important rule about any conversation is you can never move it forward into a more positive direction until the other party feels heard and that their emotions are understood. So by utilizing reframing, you take some of the blame and the accusations and change them into a more positive light. So in this example, instead of me going, Joseph, you're a thief, I could have been like, oh my God, Joseph, I think I dropped some money. It was $220. Have you seen it anywhere?
I actually have. I was about to go take it to the lost and found.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. By doing this, I'm taking the accusations. I was clumsy, I was not paying attention, and I dropped the money. So I'm taking part of the blame. And it also gives Joseph the chance to say his true intentions and so that he doesn't feel attacked from the get-go.
So in conclusion, difficult conversations are going to happen in your day-to-day life, but the whole idea is to take the tools that we just showed you and actually take them by the horns and just handle them. That way you can save your friendships, build on them, and rather than tear them down over $20.
Very good, thank you. Yeah. All right, let's do the survey, please.
Okay, I was like, could you put the session ID back up?
It's the same ID, so as long as you're in.
Yeah.
152.
Thank you.
What is it? 469-152.
Bingo. Wow, that's great. Another challenge, we don't have time to do it. That's good. Good. So you got a little quick feel for that? Thank you. Thought it was well done. Difficult for 3 people in 4 minutes, but everybody had an equal opportunity to speak, and the transitions I thought were very good. You guys see how the transitions drive energy to a presentation? Yes. Okay, keep that in mind as you plan yours. Group 3, Myra, Christina, and David. should be a nice summary for you about critical thinking.
What makes it worse is there's a
Say, you know, we should probably have these folks send you their PowerPoint and load them up again. But it's going to take too long. I just realized that. Yeah.
And then it was also used in Hong Kong protest during the time of rebellion, so you know, multidimensional. Yep. And how it's created some real right.
So just a little arrow, right?
Yeah. About 2 years ago.
And that you can see what
No, because they're all right.
I was like,
Okay, fine. I'm over here. I'm sorry.
because I'm going last, that's why. That's what I was like trying to get.
Wait, hold on. I gotta get timing. Are you ready now? Oh, I like this. Okay, go.
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Myra.
I'm Christina.
And I'm David.
And today we're going to be talking about critical thinking and prioritizing. So a little recap, what is critical thinking? So critical thinking is basically analyzing a situation or issue and its relevance, data, and related to it. So how critical thinking helps us. So critical thinking is a skill that allows you to make logical and informed decisions to the best of your ability. And it can be applied in many different ways, such as you can do it analytically, communication, which is just communicating your ideas effectively to somebody else. Creativity, so spotting patterns in different things or coming up with an idea yourself, and open-mindedness and problem solving.
We're just gonna go back just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going over our prioritizing section of the PowerPoint. So balancing your home, work, school life is really stressful at times, right? So how do you get all your tasks accomplished, or at least most of them, in a timely manner and feel, you know, like, I'm awesome because I did that. So here's a way to do it. Prioritizing. Prioritizing, for me, works best if I just start off by making a list. It doesn't really have to be organized at first. You just want to get it down on paper, your phone, computer, whatever. And then you want to designate a time for a day, an hour, a week, whatever you're trying to accomplish in that time period. Then to the right of the list, you want to put the due time or due date that you're gonna put it on there. Anyways. Okay, yeah. To the right of the list, you want to put the time that it's going to be due or the date that's going to be due. Then to the left of the list, you want to number it 1 through 4. 1 through 4 is your categories, which is your due now, due next, due last, or due never. With the due now, it's the most significant thing. It's like the thing that's going to require the most time or the thing that's the most important. With your due next, that requires a little less importance, but it is still pretty significant. Your due later is your, it's minimal time and effort. And then your due never, of course, you can just disregard that. Now that you know how to prioritize, you know, just implement it. Remember me, okay? All right, oops, sorry. I'm gonna work this thing. Okay.
Right. So what happens when you combine prioritizing and critical thinking? You get a very efficient and capable thought process that allows you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in the order that's the most efficient while going ahead. And it can be taking, for example, using critical thinking to find what is the best thing to prioritize, and then having that prioritization and being able to focus on what you need to do and then move forward with critical thinking again inside those 8 specific events. This allows you to get a clearer picture of a situation while being able to choose what is the most important. Using both of them, and they both intertwine at the same time, enables you to achieve what you want to achieve in the way that it needs to be done.
Thank you.
We're getting nerve-wracking. You might want to sign this. Oh, we're good? Yeah. Okay.
Listen, everybody, while you guys listen, when you send the self-evaluation, subject lines are important. Please put, you can either put 4353 or leadership, just put self-evaluation and your team number, okay, on the subject line. Make sure you put your team number, don't write team number, just put the team number.
Just a pen.
No,
Okay.
self-evaluation team number 10, or what I'm saying is don't just put team number.
Yeah, no. Please don't. Struggle, Chad. What happened? Should I do mine? Yeah, that Dropbox idea is a good idea. Yeah, I think my email.
Turn the projector, freeze it first, freeze it first. Like, no one needs to know.
There you go. Try that, Chad. You on a whole nother thing. Oh, this is not my deep breaths, deep breaths. I'm trying not to defeat myself before I speak. That is hard. Yes. There we go. Yes. Thank the Lord. Okay.
Let me give this to you.
Right there. It's frozen. Sorry. She didn't want y'all to see all this stuff. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Oh, sorry. Hit it again.
Hang on. Put that down. Nope. All right. Everybody ready? All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anderson.
I'm Chad, and we're going to be talking about ethical decision-making in the hospitality industry. So tourism is the world's largest industry, and with that, the tourism field has a lot of influence in how we make decisions as communities socially. So that leads the future leaders have to be able to have a foundation to make ethical decisions going into.
Yes, and with making those ethical decisions, it counts for us because, of course, we're going to different fields, whether it's hotels, events, cruises, airlines, whatever you want to name it. But truly going into what influences, I'm going to share a bit about working at Whataburger, which was different. Because you work with high schoolers, and I'm a college kid, or out of college at the time. I'm like, how do I go about this? Because you're you're older, you're like, you're a little bit more mature. And thankfully my mom was in the Army, so that kind of helped me be more strict and more like goal-oriented in the sense of like, okay, like this is how you do it, this is how it should be done, like putting my best foot forward every day. But also like with customers, it's like, well, like, especially when they don't know what they want, and you're like, well, I'm on the menu, so like here's this suggestion, like you want cheese, you want jalapenos, you want something sweet, do you want something like not too and knowing all that and delivering that to them so that they know like they're getting a good experience, but also that like it's not just like my opinion, it's like, no, this is what fits you, and not just like something to get you out of the door and like, okay, you're going, who's next? All right.
And so going into the elements of ethical decision making, it's really 3 easy steps. One is ethical decision making is affected by the intensity of the moral issue and the influence of the external environment, meaning like, hey, this may be a big issue, but how does everybody else feel about it around you, or what's going on in the situation? 2, the process of the ethical decision making includes recognition or non-recognition of the moral issue, and that depends on how self-aware you are. Making moral and amoral judgment, or making moral or not moral judgment, and then how is your intent based on that. And so going into step 3, both moral and amoral decision making leads to either ethical or unethical decisions. And I don't see usually how intent leads to actual behavior, because sometimes our intent is not the right way how to handle the ethical decision.
Come on. That's it. All right. Yes, that's it. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What? My student at school was an emergency, so I ran one. I was in jail.
Next group.
Matthew was out of work. I'm still on work. I apologize a little bit in advance. I had to run to go get my flash drive. Okay. Yeah, it should be in leadership and then the PowerPoint at the bottom. Okay, I'm Matthew McGinnis.
Wait.
Sorry.
Everybody ready? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm Matthew McGinnis,
And I'm Matthew Maltzby.
and we're the Matthews. Today we're going to be talking to you about a book called Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. So, Working with Emotional Intelligence explains to you the concept of emotional intelligence, which is mainly the capacity to be self-aware and internalize and understand your own emotions and other people's emotions around you to better have success. Man, I really didn't. Sorry, I accidentally slided ahead.
And this is a quote from Daniel Goleman. In a very real sense, we have two minds, one that thinks and one that feels. And talking about that, he says we have two separate minds, one's rational and one's emotional. And if we use our 5 key skills for emotional intelligence, we have a bigger predictor of happiness and success more than just IQ.
And to summarize the book, it basically explains how your emotions can help and hurt you, and how to understand the difference between those and use it to your benefit. Okay. So a few things that we learned in the book was, that there are 2 parts to being emotionally intelligent. One is being self-aware, and the other one is the ability to self-regulate. The ability to be self-aware is basically it just means having that emotional intelligence, being able to understand your own feelings. A lot of us get caught up in the moment. Being emotional intelligent is one of those things you could practice to kind of get better at that, is to slow down, kind of view things from a rational point of view, view things from the other person's point of view, kind of like what they're talking about with the argument, and be able to move forward from there.
As adults, we need to be able to look at our emotions on the self-meta level, and choosing how to react to your emotions and feelings is crucial. Also, having the mindfulness and self-awareness to not react to your emotions in certain situations.
Emotional intelligence can also help improve your actual health, mainly in the sense that it helps you mitigate your stress. Stress, as we all know, can have a definite physical impact on your life. Less sleep, start breaking out, you don't eat as much, stuff like that. Being able to be emotionally intelligent and use that to your advantage can definitely help you reduce the amount of stress you have and therefore become healthier.
IQ measures our intelligence, and it's normally what we think of that determines success, but Daniel Goleman's research believes otherwise, and that emotional intelligence is actually just as important, if not more important, to find a healthy and happy and successful life.
And also in the book, it went through a few examples and exercises you can do to become better with emotional intelligence. One of them is whenever you're talking with somebody, you can mirror their body language. Body language is 90% of all communication, 10% of it is verbal. I can say something to you right now and I'm using hand gestures and things, you're unable to comprehend that I'm trying to explain something to you. But if I use a little bit more aggressive tone or body language, you would probably feel that aggression, even without me necessarily stating it.
Another exercise you can do is to convince yourself that your failures are something that you can do and something that you can change. This will help you to become an optimist. Optimistic people try really hard because they believe their actions can make a difference. This will make you more likely to succeed.
And in conclusion, emotional intelligence can be an incredibly useful tool to help you become more successful and healthy in your life.
Thank you, guys.
No, I think I should be able to pull it. I just didn't know. Computer, like if it was still using it.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think you have to. I'll just. I think it's because it's using it. I'll just pull it. Thank you.
What? service. You may need to modify the questions of this to this class.
Well, still, you only climb 16 flights of stairs, I guess that's. I was not going to
Can you guys see? Got some work to do there, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when you do your self-evaluation, I find it helpful if you'll answer this question. Tell me what you did well. But I also want to hear, if you pose it this way, I think you'll find it helpful. If I had to do it all over again tomorrow, what would I do differently? I think if you pose that question to yourself, it'll be helpful. Well, we saw some good presentations today, some very good content. So I appreciate everybody's effort in doing that. It's never easy to go first, to be in the first group, and so I appreciate that a lot. Eric and Rose, thank you very much for kicking us off. That's never easy. So that's good. So and we had some good transitions. I hope you saw that, why that's important, and so good. Right. Let's talk about. What time is it? 1:54?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about strategic management again. Let's get back into that mindset. I know it's kind of hard to transition into that, so let's do a little recap, especially for those who perhaps weren't here on Tuesday of last week. We identified this concept of strategic management, yes, and we identified 4 components. Who can help us identify those? 4 components of strategic management. Anderson says planning is number 1. That's exactly right. Bless you. Eileen, organizing. Controlling, which also means measuring. And what are we measuring? Progress toward goals that were set in the planning process, right? And then finally, leadership, which you need in all 3 components. So let's start out again. In the planning process, we identified 3 main tools to help us plan. What are they? Mission statement, goals, core values, right? And what are the, thank you. And what's the key objective we're trying to achieve with our planning? We're trying to set direction and clarify expectation for our employees. Right? Okay. And we also talked about, when we talk about planning, we talked about strategies being longer term. We talked about tactics being shorter term steps. Yeah. We talked about the differences between policies and procedures and rules. Okay? So it's important that you know those terms of art when you get out into the workplace. It's also going to be important that you understand those terms of art for your exam. Okay? Now, now we need to talk about the organizing aspect. But what are we organizing? Resources. What's the modifier we use to describe those resources? Scarce, right? They're scarce resources. By the way, before I forget, I've been watching on Netflix a 3-part series on Bill Gates. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to watch it. Number 1, it's very inspirational, but number 2, he really opens up about being human, and for a leader,
I think it's very important to see the challenges that he and his partner Paul Allen had working together, how they did things perhaps differently than they would today, right? The culture was much different than I think what most people's perception would have been of the Microsoft culture early on. But most importantly, I think, given what's going on in the world today, is I think because they're tackling such global projects and making good progress, even though the film doesn't necessarily shine on all the progress, you have to it's a nuanced progress. But I think it will give you great hope that there are really solutions available for what ails the world today. And I think that's important to keep that in mind. Every time we face challenges, we have always been able to find solutions, and this time is no exception. So we'll do that. All right, so back to organizing. So we're organizing scarce resources. So tell me again, give me some examples of those scarce resources. Connor, can you give us one? Time is a scarce resource. Kelsey, can you give us another one?
People.
People is another one, and I've forgotten your name. Marco, what's another one? Money. Yeah, those are big ones. And then it's also space, right? We talked about how valuable space is and how we organize people. Okay, so when we typically think about organizing, the thing you want to think about first organizing your people. Okay? Are people valuable? They're valuable assets. Are they costly? They're costly. So the better organized and more efficient you are with your people, the more effective your organization is going to operate. Now, most of you have seen an organizational chart that looks top down, right? GM, assistant GM, whatever it is. You take the kitchen, executive chef, sous chef, cooks, yeah? And I gave you a different example in the emotional intelligence talk. Do you remember that? What did I do with the chart? I flipped it upside down because I'm a big believer that the chart should reflect reality. Okay? And it's hard to get the industry to do that. Why? What is it that keeps people making a top-down organization chart or a hierarchy organization chart? Ego, exactly. And so try to move your ego out of it and try to demonstrate reality. Now, have you seen, and you may not have at this stage in your time, but have you seen other types of organization charts? Top down, bottom up. Have you seen others? Or if you haven't seen others, can you think about what others might look like to create the culture that you want to create? What could you do? Well, sometimes we see circles, and you'll put the leader in the center. And that's more of a consensus-driven organization. But it may not be as efficient, right? Because it's challenging to try to build a consensus on every single issue. Have you figured that out? All right. So be mindful of that when you think about it. But let's go back to the original organization chart that you're familiar with, that you saw in the intro class in the book. And your lines, you've got lines. Does everybody recall those? All right. What do those lines represent? They do. They demonstrate relationships. What type of relationships?
Direct reports.
What's that?
Direct reports.
Direct reports. So what's another way we can what's a word we can substitute for direct reports? Because if somebody is your direct report, that means they have what? Authority. Exactly. They have authority. Yep. Okay, and typically we would say authority over you. So if Davis was reporting to Eileen, direct report, if Eileen was above Davis in the organization chart, Eileen would have authority over Davis. Right? So those lines mean relationships, but it's almost always a relationship of authority. If I'm on the same line as other employees. Does anybody have authority over anybody on that line? No. What else do those lines mean? Communication. They also mean communication. So, if I'm on the bottom of the organization chart, and Amanda is on the top, and there are layers in between us, and I have a challenge with somebody 2 layers ahead of me, if I have this organization chart, or this is the way the company is laid out, can I go directly to Amanda? No. Where do I need to go? Quincy, I need to go to my direct report, right? I go to my direct report, and I start there, and you go up. Now that also can be very inefficient. Do you see why? And it also can be very frustrating, because if your direct report is not empathic to your issue, they might not champion it, and you might just get stuck. So be mindful of that. But it's important that you understand when somebody hands you an organization chart, or you see it, that you recognize what those things mean, and you act accordingly within the organization that you have chosen to work for. Now, knowing that now, before you decide to interview with somebody, or before you decide to take a job with somebody, what should you ask for? You want to see, I would suggest that you see that, and I would say, where am I going to fit in the organization? And look, if somebody hands you a top-down organization chart, what does that tell you about that organization?
They value the people at the top.
Quincy says they value the people at the top. I think that's a very fair assessment. What else do you know? Let's go back historically. Where do top-down organization charts come from? Where did we first see them? Where do we still see them to this day?
Social hierarchy.
Military? Social hierarchy, but it's the military is where we really saw them. When we think about leadership, when we think about organizing organizations, it was the military that started that out. Because remember, business organizations, large ones, really didn't start until post-1900. So when you had large organizations that needed leadership and organization, that was primarily the military that we had. And as an example, when we began to grow business organizations. Sadly, that type of mindset and philosophy still exists today, right? But think about this. Has the world changed since 1900? How many of you want to work for a company that's organized and run like the Army? Well, some people do, and that's okay. But you need to make that choice. And so that organization chart can tell you a lot, as can the mission statement. Right? All right. Now, there's a term of art that's known as the span of control. So when you're organizing people, you need to recognize that there's an optimum number of people that somebody can support or manage. I like the term support rather than manage or supervise. Because that's what I think a manager or supervisor does. They should support the people that they work with to deliver the product or service. Yeah? So, what do you think that number is? Matthew, how many people do you think you can effectively support? It's going to depend on the job, but let's say in a restaurant, strike that. Let's say in a hotel, how many people do you think you can effectively support? That's a fair question. Let's say you're in the sales department.
5, 6.
Yeah, that's a good thought. How about in the housekeeping department? Yeah, that's because we typically support that many, right? The executive housekeeper does that. Yeah, we do. We stretch them thin in housekeeping. But it's probably the most important work that gets done in the hotel. And I'll prove it to you. How many of you want to be a housekeeper for the rest of your life in a hotel? That's how you know it's the most important job in a hotel. And that's how you know you want to nurture those people and take care of those people that do want to be housekeepers. Yeah? And sometimes one executive housekeeper for 12 or 14, sometimes even 20 people, it's not near enough. But the average span of control is between 5 and 7. Now, that is what we've learned historically. But what has happened? What has happened that has impacted that number? Technology, email, collaborative tools, right? So a lot of businesses think you should be able to manage more people than you ever have before. But what else is driving that philosophy so it may not be totally objective? Cost. More importantly, cost cutting. What is going on in this industry that you need to be aware of that is driving cost cutting?
Wage increases for workers.
Wage increases for workers, potentially, although honestly that's been really slow in the last 10 years. The people in the investment side have made lots of money. The people on the employment side, the staffing side, have really kind of stagnated in the last 10 years. But what has gone on in this industry? What has happened that has created such a focus on cutting costs?
Bottom line.
Bottom line, why? Who's pushing that bottom line?
The investors and...
Keep going on that thought. Who are the investors? Shareholders, they want an ROI. But why? But it's shareholders, yeah, but investors and shareholders of what type of organizations? Venture capital groups are investing in hotel chains and restaurant chains, and when they do, those organizations are used to a much higher ROI. Everybody understands ROI? Return on investment? And so you can only make your top line number so high, right? Your revenue in a short period of time. So you have to do what? You've got to cut costs to make your bottom line look good. Because if you're in the venture capital group, what are you trying to do? You don't buy and hold, you buy and sell in a relatively short period of time because you're trying to make a significant hit quickly to look good for the people that invest in your VC, venture capital group, right? So they are constantly trying to reduce costs, which means we're going to have a larger span of control. They're going to expect managers to oversee 12 to 15 people instead of 5 to 7. Or they're going to take out layers of management altogether. Right? You may get a GM, but you're no longer going to have an assistant GM. You might just get a hotel manager, or you might get a shift manager. Who started getting rid of organizational layers, tiers of management about 25 years ago in the hospitality industry, and everybody has followed suit? Think about restaurants. Think about restaurant chains. This is like to tell the truth. Think about quick service restaurant chain. Who? No, McDonald's has pretty well stayed the same for the last 40 or 50 years. Who? Chick-fil-A was probably not around 25 years ago, but they staff big time at Chick-fil-A. But you've got to realize, venture capital doesn't own McDonald's. Venture capital doesn't own Chick-fil-A. They're all mostly corporate owned.
Taco Bell?
Exactly. What did they start doing?
I was just cutting down layers of people.
Why? Why were they able to cut down layers, Chad? You're exactly right, but why? What did they do? Not partnership so much. Well, it could have been considered that, but they combined their brands. Right? So they consolidated, and so instead of having to have a building and a manager and assistant manager for a Taco Bell, now you've got Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC, Long John Silver's, all in one place, right? So we reduced our rent, we reduced our kitchen space, dirt's expensive, but here's the other thing they did. When they did that, now how many, instead of 4 managers, how many do I need? 1. And if you go into them now, they'll know what they do now is they'll put a manager over 5 of those outlets. So now all of a sudden you've got 20 branded outlets, right, in different places with 1 manager. And then they'll have a shift manager that kind of is the authority in there. And that's why they can afford to sell tacos for 99 cents.
Yeah.
Right? That is their differentiator because they got there quickly to do that. And look, it took the hotel business 25 years to figure that out. What are hotels doing now? Same concept. Give me an example. No, don't think about technology. Think about organization. Because that was an organizational move. Do you see that? That's utilizing your scarce resources much differently than ever thought of before. What else?
I stayed at one for the past 2 weeks, and they have a Staybridge, a Holiday Inn, and a Holiday Inn Express all in the same parking lot.
Same parking lot. They'll do that. And some hotels are even sharing buildings now. All under the Hilton flag. You'll get a Hilton and you'll get a Hampton. 2 different target markets? Yes. How many managers do you need now for both of those brands? 1. How many housekeeping teams? 1. How many sales and marketing teams? 1. So they're greatly reducing the outlay for labor, making it more efficient, and at the same time reducing rent, building costs, so the economies of scale are huge. Do you see why organization becomes so important? So that is crucial. Think about management companies and organizing people. So if you're Ambridge and Interstate, those are 2 of the big management companies, around, also with White Lodging. Are you familiar with those? So who's going to, of those 3, there's 2 of them that are going to merge. Which 2? Ambridge and? You got a 66%, yeah. Ambridge and Interstate are merging. Now, what's that going to mean?
The teams are going to merge.
The teams are going to merge. Do I need a regional for Ambridge, and do I need a regional for Interstate? I still need the staff at the hotel. But I don't necessarily need the entire sales force that I had before, because here's what's going on. Let's say you're Ambridge, and let's say you operate 25 hotels for 25 different owners in the Houston market. You with me so far? 25 hotels,